Welcome to Renovating Riches Radio. Today, we have a very special guest.
One of the big guys in the Houston area.
Well, this guy has done a ton of things. Actually, last week I learned that you were in the note business. I had no idea.
Yes.
Tom Berry, man, thank you so much for being here with us.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
I am pretty sure, guys, number one, you need to share, hit like and subscribe on this podcast. Tom is actually probably going to come out with a podcast in the next few months. We were just talking about prior to the interview, but one of the reasons I reached out to Tom was because he's got a great story. If you're struggling, if you are one of those people who are looking for the light, he might be able to shine some of that on you. Okay,
Probably a little bit.
A little bit, right?
Yeah.
So without much further introduction, man, who is Tom? Like, where do you come from? What's your social security number, bank account number, that kind of deal, right? Who are you, man? Like, where were you born?
I was born in Ohio.
Ohio.
Martins Ferry, Ohio, a little hick town and on the Ohio River in Lower Appalachia.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And how were your upbringings? Like money and cars and that kind of thing?
Oh, yeah. We were just rolling in it. I mean, that's a very wealthy part of the country if you've never been there. No, I'm kidding. No, it's coal mining community. It's hard work.
Did you work in the mines?
No, I did not. My dad did.
That's probably what the career path
that was
is
always,
in those areas.
yeah. Well, I tell you, by the time I got old enough to get out into the workforce, the mines were shutting down, and it was actually not the way it had been when, say, my dad was growing up.
Right.
He quit school after the 8th grade just to go to work in the
money was good,
and money was okay.
It was a way of life.
It was a way of life there, right? Nobody knew. Nobody knew. We were broke, but we didn't even know we were broke because everybody around us was broke. It's one of those deals.
Following the masses.
Yeah. And you say, who am I? From a very early age, even in school, I always knew I was going to be a businessman.
Okay.
I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur, but I had no idea how. Right. But I just always had that entrepreneurial spirit.
What exactly? I mean, we're talking years back, but
way back.
So what do you think?
way back now.
How did you know? I mean, you're a kid. I don't know, 10, 13, 15 years old. Why you say that you knew that you were going to be?
Because my dad instilled that in me.
Okay.
Even though he wasn't employed.
With nothing but an 8th grade education, he used to constantly tell my sister and I, when you grow up, you always want to be a business owner because if you go to work for somebody else, all you do is make them rich.
Wow.
Okay. And I mean, he just pounded that into us growing up. So by the time I was 15, I mean, there was just no doubt about it. I was going to own a company. I was going to own something.
You were in high school, I'm going to assume, at that age, right?
Middle school.
Middle school.
Yeah.
And did you start like some sort of a hustle job? Well, like maybe buying and selling stuff?
Yeah, at 9 years old, actually. I've started my first business at 9 years old.
Wow.
Yep, I was selling pencils at school. Yeah. I would go with my mom to the Family Dollar on Saturdays. She would do her shopping at the Family Dollar, and I noticed they had these 25-pack of pencils.
Right.
And I calculated it was only 2 cents a pencil. Well, the school office was selling pencils to the students for 5 cents.
Okay.
So I figured I could sell them for 4, double my money, and undercut the school office.
Yeah.
I was selling more pencils than the school was.
And you never got banned from selling candy?
No. I mean,
he got banned from selling candy.
It's 2 cents. It was 2 cents. But to me, I was doubling my quarters, right?
Right.
I know that sounds silly, but that was in 4th grade. Then when I got into middle school, I upgraded because at the Family Dollar, now I got a little bit of money and I'm looking around. What else do they got here at the Family Dollar that I could sell at school? So they had these 10 packs of candy bars, right? So, I started buying those and I could sell those and double my money. And then it went to tools and knives. And, by the time I went to a trade school, I wasn't really smart enough in my studies to stay in a regular school. So I went to a trade school, and but there, all the boys, we all carried knives on our side. It was in another era, right? Couldn't hardly do that today. So I was the guy
on my truck.
Yeah. I mean, we were carrying them in high school. All the boys had a knife on our
It
side.
was okay to go to high
It
school.
was okay. Yeah, it was okay.
Fights were a lot more interesting.
Now you get banned from school for that. But
Right.
I was the guy you went to when you needed a new knife. I was the guy you needed a new socket set. I was the guy.
Yeah, you were the source for
I was the source.
your network, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I need
Yeah.
this. Why don't we go ask Tom? Maybe he can
Yep,
find it for
yep,
us.
yep.
So
And
that's-
my locker was always full of crap
stuff,
to sell.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a common theme, we interview so many people, and you can see that trade, most of them, from the early age, they have that entrepreneurial spirit or that bug that bit them at some point, and they start either a lemonade stand or whatnot. So I mean, it's no different here.
And you know what? I really admire what your dad did for you and your sister, which was put that chip on your head. Hey, you need to go become an entrepreneur, because he, subconsciously, man, he was just bringing you guys up to go be, in that owning your time, owning
Right.
your life.
Yeah.
Which is the complete opposite from most people.
Yes.
We get told to go to school, go get a college degree, so we can go get a good job, and I can see why you are all over different businesses, and it was because you were being prepared from a very young age.
Yeah.
So that's actually a pretty good thing. I wish that would have happened to me. My dad wanted me to go to school.
Yeah.
Even though he was an entrepreneur. He just didn't want me to go through his struggles as an entrepreneur, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So
Well, we all have those.
yeah, it ain't all flowers and rainbows and that kind of deal, right? So anyway, so
graduate high
you
school.
graduate high school,
Yep.
honors, right?
It was an honor that they gave me my diploma. Let's put it that way. That was the only honor about
I
it.
feel the same way.
Yeah.
And then what do you do afterward? You went to that trade school, right?
No, that was in high school.
That was while you were in
that
high
was
school.
part
Okay.
of high school. Yeah, that's how I got through high school.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And then after high school,
Went to
now
work.
what?
Went to work.
Got a job.
Yep. Got a job.
Doing what?
My first job was scrubbing floors at the local grocery store.
Okay. And then
I moved up in that job 3 or 4 or 5 times. I was third in charge of the store eventually. By the time I quit that job to take a job as a service manager of a car dealership.
Okay.
Something I absolutely had no experience in. There's no reason they gave me that job except I just sold them on giving me the job.
your confidence. It was your confidence.
Yeah.
So you went and became a car dealership service manager. Those guys make pretty good money. from what I
Yeah,
understand.
well, everywhere else, yes, not
But not up
necessarily
there.
there.
We're
Not
still in
necessarily
Ohio.
there.
Yeah,
we're
we're
still in a very, very depressed small town communities.
And when did you leave Ohio? Or
Yeah,
what?
so I left that area. I would start a job, start a business. I would fail, then I'd go get another job. I'd start another business. I would fail. I'd go get another job, and that's pretty much what my resume looked like.
Right, bouncing up and down.
Yeah. Until about 20 years ago, I'd been mid-30s, early 30s, something like that. I started a financial services firm. I got licensed in insurances, in investments, mutual funds, annuities, mortgages, debt consolidations. I was licensed in a lot of things, and sat with families and helped them put together a financial plan for themselves. And I loved that. That was, it was troubleshooting. I was just making commissions, so I was kind of my own boss.
Right.
I set my own hours. I was able to recruit and train other people.
Okay.
And as I trained them and they got better, I got a little override because it was a brokerage system.
Yeah.
So that was really cool, and I did that for 10 years.
Wow.
I was making 6 figures, and man, I thought, gosh, with my background and my skill set and my training, that's phenomenal,
Were you still in Ohio?
We
or
were
just-
still in Ohio, still in a
Okay.
little redneck community, and
So you haven't been in the Houston area for that
no,
long.
no. And at that point, my wife and I said, you know what, let's move. We wanted someplace warmer. We want someplace bigger, someplace
Right.
with more opportunity.
Big city.
Yeah. So that's when we actually, in 2006, moved to Texas.
Okay.
And we moved, we picked the Houston market, moved right down the road here to Katy when we first came to Houston. rented a house there. Then we moved to Kemah, rented a house there. Then we bought a house in Bayou Vista, and now we ultimately ended up in Texas City.
Okay.
We love Galveston County. That's kind of where we found our little
heart
Our
is
heart
there.
was yeah. So still there to this day.
Good.
But
And were you, so when you moved to Texas, were you still doing in the
we were still in
financial
finance,
service?
right?
Okay.
Right. And I said we moved here in 2006. I had no clients, we had no friends, we had no family, we didn't know a single solitary soul in the Houston market.
Right.
Did you have kids at that time?
We did, 4 kids. Yes,
Okay.
we have 4
Wow,
kids.
you're
They were all in high school at that point. So we moved here, and I started my practice, and things were going, and it was slow, but we had savings, so we were able to make it work. And then 2007, about mid 2007,
We all know
financial
what
bubble burst, and we lost 2/3 of our income in 30 days. It was that fast. I mean, just you imagine taking your income and just cutting it by 2/3 of it's gone, and you get 1/3 left. And we struggled for several months trying to make that work. Obviously, we probably held on a little longer than we should have.
Right.
We lost everything. We were evicted out of our office, evicted out of our home. My car was repossessed out of my driveway, and
Yeah, we've been there before.
hell,
How do
that's
you-
11 years ago. That was
That's
only
not
11
that
years
far.
ago.
It's not that far when
No.
you think about it.
No.
How do you, because, there's people listening or watching this video right now. How do you cope with that in your family? You have grown up kids.
Right.
How do you explain to them, this is what's going to happen? This is where we're going to go through next couple of months or year or whatever.
First of all, they never knew. They never knew any of what I'm sharing with you.
Right.
They never knew.
They know now.
They know now.
So
They're
I
all
guess-
adults. They're 30 years old or so each, and so they
just
know now.
thought, oh, we're moving.
Yeah.
And I guess you moved to like an apartment or
We're
something.
moving, and guess what? I'm not renewing that lease on that office, okay?
And I don't like my car
My
anymore.
car,
so
I just hate it. I'm just gonna get me another
the
one.
tow truck is gonna come and pick it up tomorrow.
Well, it's just one of those things that they didn't need to carry that.
Right.
I needed to carry that. That's my job as the head
What
of the
about your
house.
wife?
I married the most amazing wife that a man can marry.
Yeah.
And
There's always a great wife behind a great man, and I can see that if you're still together today, you went through that situation, which is pretty tough.
Yeah.
That speaks a lot about your marriage.
Yeah.
So
yeah, she's the most amazing woman I could have ever married, and she never once looked at me and said, "How'd you get us in this mess?" or "It's your fault." I mean, there was never any of that. It was,
what do we need to do?
what are we going to do? What do we got to do? And I mean, she went and got a job waiting tables at Cracker Barrel, so she could put food on the table, and she had her tips calculated. And she's like, look, I can pay for groceries, I can pay for the
She had the
utilities,
forecast.
but I don't know how we're going to handle rent or the car note. I don't know how we're going to do that. That's going to be on you.
Right.
And so, I've never been without work in my life. I've worked hard. Most generally, I had 2 or 3 jobs. I couldn't buy a job then.
Right. Yeah.
I couldn't. There was so many of us that were out of work.
Jobs.
I'd never been in that position before, guys. Really, I couldn't believe that I put out so many resumes and went and knocked on so many doors and didn't have a job. I couldn't believe it. And so I got on the internet. One night I remember she's like, honey, what are we going to do? What are you thinking? And I said, and this is just how I think. I said, you know what? If nobody's going to give me a job, I'm just going to freaking make one. And she's just like, what does that even mean? Right? I said, well, if nobody's going to give me a job, there ain't no jobs out there for me. I got to create one. I got to make one, meaning I got to start a business.
Right.
And she's just like, I don't understand how we could do that. We don't have any money.
Right.
Doesn't that take money? And I said, give me a few days. Give me a few days. I'll figure it out. And I got on the internet, and I'd always had, in the back of my mind, I always wanted to do real estate, right, as a real estate investor. I had my first rental property when I was 23 years old.
Right. So you were a real estate
But
investor,
I just,
very passive.
but I didn't know how. I didn't know what I was doing when I did it. But throughout different periods in my life, I've done some real estate transactions, just one at a time. And I thought, I could probably do that for a living if I knew what I was doing.
Right.
So I got online and I started digging, finding stuff like this, and just watching and listening and reading everything I could get my hands on that was free.
Now, prior to that, Tom, did you do a lot of like self-education, like reading books about, I don't know, mindset, maybe sales?
Yeah. All the above.
Right. So
Yeah.
then that's how you were probably able to cope with that situation, is because of all the growth that you had.
I agree.
In the past, maybe because you were just trying to be a better salesman when you were in the financial services.
Agreed. Oh, yeah.
Some of the people that I've seen that have grown the most are salespeople in the insurance and the financial services.
Car salespeople.
Car salespeople also.
Yeah.
So
I did that too at a time. For
a
time.
It always comes up at some point that they sold cars because it's a good training ground for whatever sales you're doing.
So check this out. So the universe puts Tom in a position to where he's on, like nobody will hire him. Mm-hmm. That it's because he's either overqualified or he made too much money in the past,
or everybody was getting
doesn't have doesn't have a college degree,
right.
or I was hearing all these excuses of why they wouldn't hire me.
No, all companies were firing people.
Right.
I mean, we're in the late layovers instead of the hiring period, because this is 2007
and now you got all these foreclosures and the banks are in panic mode and they're not loaning money.
Companies were not hiring. I mean,
so you found information online and like, what do you do? Like, how was that?
So my wife comes home one day and I'm on the computer and she's like, "Did you have any luck today?" She's thinking, "Did you get a phone call with a job offer?" And I said, "I did great today." And she's like, "Really? What is it?" I said, "I know what we're going to do. We're going to start a real estate investor company." That's exactly what she did. You're laughing at me.
What?
You're painting the picture.
And
so
I was totally serious when I said it. I wasn't smiling. I'm like, I was excited, and she just laughed at me, and she's like, "You're right. You're funny.
Like,
no, serious.
No,
serious. What are we gonna do?"
You're telling this story, and I'm trying to think because there's a very famous quote, and it's one of my favorites. I can't quote who said it. It's Bernard Shaw, I believe, but he said that the men who get on in this world are the men who get up and look for the circumstances they want, and if they can't find them, they make them.
Wow.
And that resumes everything you've just said up till this point. Sometimes you go and look for them, but if you can find it, you need to make it yourself.
You just got to make it.
So
yeah.
You pop the great plan to your wife. We're going to open a real estate investment company. What exactly did that mean at that time?
Like, what do you do? Like,
well, is it going to be because you're going to be a landlord or wholesale? You discover wholesaling? I mean,
I had discovered wholesaling.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's like, "Well, if to be a real estate investor, we'd have to have money, and we don't have any money.
That's the one thing we lack."
that is the one thing we lack, and we don't have credit either, by the way, because it just got ripped up too. So, and I'm like, no. I've been reading online, and it says you don't need neither one, so we qualify. And she's just like,
I love this. You don't need neither one. We qualify.
We qualify.
We qualify himself.
That's right.
We qualify for investing because we don't have nothing.
That's right. And obviously, she was not a believer at first.
Right.
She's a very supportive
she probably
individual.
Said, Tom lost it.
He's like, I need to get another waiting job.
Yeah.
Nowadays, a lot of guys or gals will come up to me and say, they know me, they know Melissa, and they know the relationship we have and the companies that we've grown together. And they'll say, "How do I get my spouse to be supportive like Melissa?"
That's a very, very popular topic.
It's a very popular question that I get all the time. And I always tell them, it's simple. Show them the money.
Mm-hmm.
Stop showing them the talk and show them the check. That's how you get your spouse supportive. So if you ask, how did you get Melissa from that laughing at me to where we are, say even 6 months later?
You show her
the money. I showed her the first check, the third check, the fifth check, and on the fifth check, she quit Cracker Barrel so she could help me
Right.
build the business. When in our 4th month in as wholesalers, we made 15 grand. She's just like, okay.
Yeah, back then,
I see
assignment
it.
fees were like $3,000 a piece, right? But
Yeah,
you're
5.
doing five,
we
three to
we
five.
did $5 grand a piece on 3 assignment deals in 1 month, and she's just like, "What do you need me to do?"
Right.
And I said, "I need you full time. You need to quit your job at Cracker Barrel. And we need to focus on marketing. We need to focus on getting more of these deals." We went on that year, our very first year, to make $106,000 in wholesale fees and accumulate 5 rental properties.
Right.
That was our
How do
very
you-
first year in real estate.
And all those rentals, you use creative financing. I'm going
Of
to
course, yeah, of course. We didn't have any money. We didn't have any
qualify
credit.
for no money.
But here,
I am your buyer. I'm taking over your payments. How does that work? Well, I just keep paying your mortgage. Okay, perfect.
well, we didn't even do that. I didn't know about that yet. But here's what I did know about. So I'm wholesaling these houses, right? And I'm wholesaling them to these people that are using private money.
Right.
And I'm looking at this going, wait a minute. I'm selling this guy a house, but he doesn't got any money either. Well, why can't I buy houses? I don't have any money.
Yeah, he's
So
buying somebody
we both
else's checkbook.
qualify.
yeah,
under the same rule.
I qualified now to buy houses.
Yeah.
And it's,
Now you are a buyer.
so that first year, very quickly, I understood I can buy houses and I can rent these things out. So by the end of the first year, we had 5 houses and did very well with wholesale fees. So that got a foundation for us, right?
Right.
And then by the end of the second year, we're up to 20 some houses. And then by the end of the third year, we had 38 units.
Rentals.
And then by the end of the 4th year, we had 425.
Wow. So
Oh,
that's talking
wait
about
a second.
That's just 10xing from one year over to the next. Now it's like the bamboo, right? It takes a little bit to grow, but
A lot of time to grow on underground, and when it
when it
sprouts.
comes out, it just goes out like crazy. He built a bamboo in 3 years. 4th year, this thing just went and shot through the roof. 10x his rentals, 400 and some units.
At this point, you have a team of people working with you. It's not just you and Melissa, right?
Yeah, I think at 74 units, we hired our first employee.
Okay.
So it was a lot of work, right? But look,
Yeah.
But what he's telling me, I'm not surprised. I mean, he'll probably be working at midnight when most people are sleeping or in bed or watching whatever TV.
Yep.
And he's probably up early in the morning when most people are in bed still, right? Chasing his deals, right? He's building that foundation. So and it shows on why somebody will go and out hustle the rest of the people,
Well,
right?
that's all I got. That's all I've got, right? I mean, I just think to get to where you're trying to, I always talk about having your desired lifestyle, right? I know what I want my lifestyle to be. I know what I want my life to look like, and I'm going to create that, right? And I've done that 3 or 4 times now in my real estate career. And in those early days, I knew exactly what I wanted, and I knew it was going to take a certain amount of effort to get there. So I could do that effort over a course of a long time, or I could just collapse time frames and work 2 days in every 1 day, right? Because I don't mind working 16-hour days if there's an end in sight, right? So my wife and I we laid out a plan that we were going to be completely financially independent and have a $2 million net worth from starting at
Zero.
flat zero, actually
Or
less
negative.
than less than zero.
Minus.
We were going to have a $2 million net worth in 5 years and be completely financially free.
Right.
Because I figured if we had a $2 million net worth and we could get a 10% rate of return on it, that gives us 200 grand a year. And for us, that was freedom, right?
Right.
If we had that, that would be freedom.
Which means having all your bills and
200
everything
grand a
paid.
year.
200 grand a year, we can do whatever we want.
Unless he goes and buys a
At
$2
that
million
time.
home, then
Now,
you know.
I can't live on 200 anymore, but
Right.
at that time, 200 grand would be
Cover
We'll do it.
everything.
would
We'll do
cover
it.
everything.
Yeah, for some
Exactly.
people today, that means 40 grand. Okay.
Right.
So there's some people that all they need is 40 grand a
Yeah.
year, and
Yeah.
they'll be completely, I guess
So for those folks, if they got a $500,000 net worth, they're there.
They're there.
They're there. So I just said, I'm going to collapse time frames. Every day I'm going to work 2, and I'm going to get it done in 5 years. We actually achieved it in 4.
That's good.
Took 4 years.
That's
Amazing.
48
That's
months.
amazing. We've done something similar. It's just that we're still in progress, right? But we went from flipping one house at a time into flipping 35, right?
Right.
And we collapsed that time frame, but we got caught in the middle of Harvey, and that was completely a disruption in our operations, in the way we rehab houses, the workers we had. But what you did is very remarkable, because you went from, man, I don't know what I'm gonna do to get me another rental place for me and my family, into I'm gonna go own now 400 and something units in the next four years. So
We're running out of time with this first episode. Our producer's making all kinds of signs. So, Tom, we want to thank you. And for you that's listening or watching us, stay tuned, because next week we're going to continue this amazing story, and we're going to dig into what has Tom built other than that great rental portfolio, how everything has transitioned. So stay tuned. Remember to hit share, like, subscribe to our channel, or if you're listening on iTunes, make sure you share this program and like it, and tell everyone.
you want to get in contact with Tom, make sure you go to ils.cash. I love that website name, by the way. ils.cash, okay? Send them a message.
Tom at ils.cash.
Tom at ils.cash, and go visit the ils.cash.com as well. Check out what they have.
Not .com, just ils.cash.
Oh, that's right. ils.cash. I'm sorry. They bought that cash name, man. So that's pretty good. That's better than com.
That's right. That's
so
right.
we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.